What's your hedge, though, in case the war goes even further south, right? And the other thing you're talking about is the economy and consumption transitions to services as opposed to goods, et cetera. I mean, services is a jobs multiplier, right? And the labor market is extremely tight right now, which sounds to me like even more inflationary pressure, not a tail-off.
Right. Well, so on the wage price pressure component of that, we need to get people back into the workforce. Can't really do that until we clear up some of the sort of reopening concerns that we have. So we don't really, until this very quarter, have kids being able to go back into school, childcare options open. Half of the labor force willing to get back out and about. And I think that's a natural transition from where we were in the fourth quarter and still concerned about Omicron to where we are in the first quarter, where people are starting to come back. So labor force participation would be the most important piece of tomorrow's jobs data that we look at. And we continue to see that climbing. We've seen 2 upticks in a row. I think that'll continue. I think that takes some of the pressure off that labor scenario. And so there's a whole lot of other things we could be doing in terms of policy to help that. But in the short run, I think we get more people in the workforce as they feel more comfortable getting back out and about.
Okay. What's the wages growth component of the payrolls number going to tell us about whether wages are keeping pace with inflation? And where is corporate America in all of this? Because they're sitting on huge balance sheets, huge excess capital. They're more inclined to return it to shareholders than workers. Isn't that the problem?
Well, yes and no. Sri, that's always likely going to be the case. But when we look at how wages have done, while they've gone up, call it 4 to 4.5% on an annualized basis, and inflation currently running at 7.5%, obviously you're going to see that sort of imbalance and consumer discretionary spending, therefore being dragged down. I think, though, that as the inflationary pressures come down, that wage component tends to be more sticky. So we'll likely exit this year with more increases in the average hourly wage, but the spending power increasing because the inflationary component of that likely recedes a bit as we enter the second half and certainly the fourth quarter of this year. So it is a balance. It's certainly difficult. It's a very competitive market to hire people. There's more jobs available than there are people that are applying for them right now, but I think that dynamic gradually gets better.